Hey, Mr. Wiedemer here from Mr. Wiedemer's History. Welcome to 10.5 World War II on the home front. You guys will be able to describe life in America during World War II. Alright, great quote by FDR here. Not all of us can have the privilege of fighting our enemies in distant parts of the world, but there is one front and one battle where everyone in the United States is in action, and that front is right here at home. That means no matter where you are, you can help out your effort in the war. No matter how old you are, you can help out in the effort of the war. Alright, first up, Victory Gardens. Alright, World War II placed huge demands on food and fuel. The U.S. government encouraged planting of Victory Gardens. Alright, in 1943, there were 20 million Victory Gardens. Plant your own food. Alright, grow enough to feed your family and plant your own food. So Victory Gardens sprang up everywhere, all over the country. Next up, to provide more resources for the military, the U.S. is going to pass several measures, such as food rationing, limited amount of certain products individuals get, such as coffee, butter, sugar, meat. They're all rationed, right? And the government issued ration books. Metal, glass, rubber, and gasoline were all rationed, all right? And some of the meat, they had they ate horse meat because the good meat went to the soldiers overseas. Right? And kids had scrap metal drives, and just everybody helped out and rationed goods and rationed stuff so they can save the resources for the military. We're going all in, do whatever it takes for victory, whatever it takes to win World War II, we'll do it. So we're going to conserve goods. Right? Do with less, so they'll have enough. Right? How did the U.S. make their money? Well, by war bonds, victory bonds. Alright, Americans invested in money to help pay supplies, weapons during war. 85 million Americans purchased war bonds. Remember, a war bond is you buy a bond for $100. Alright, that's basically the government borrowing money from you, an individual citizen. And then when the bond's up, the government will pay you that $100 back plus interest. Alright, so basically a bond is the government borrowing money from its citizens. And war bonds is how most of the money for the war was funded through individual citizens through the bonds. And it raised nearly $185 billion for the war. Yeah, that billion with a B, $185 billion for the war through war bonds. Alright, great propaganda ads such as this encourage people to buy the bonds. Alright, now, for many, the hardest part was dealing with the absence of loved ones. Many men and women went overseas, and many of them did not return. And it was very hard. It took a personal toll on the lives of Americans, especially American women. Right? So winning support. Now, to win the war, you need support at home. If you don't have support of people at home, you're never going to win a war. Because what are you fighting for? The soldier, a true soldier, doesn't fight because he hates what's in front of him, but he fights because he loves what's behind him. And if he has a country behind him, a loved one at home behind him, rooting him on, cheering him on, rationing, doing whatever it takes to win the war, you're going to do whatever it takes on that battlefield to win this war. So you need the American support, so we're going to have all American support. Roosevelt wanted 4 freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. Remember, the only thing you have to fear, it's fear itself. Okay, so the Office of the War Information, WWII, they're responsible for spreading propaganda. Okay, propaganda to get you to fight. You see, even Mickey Mouse joined the fight to get people to ration, to get people to be on the side of America. Okay, propaganda everywhere, from posters to movies. Hollywood to make many patriotic films and movies to pump the American people up in public support for the war. And, you didn't really need a lot for World War II because everybody wanted to go to war anyways because of Pearl Harbor. But, getting everybody to do their part, buy war bonds, ration goods, support the troops at home. Alright, so many movie stars voted time to war cause. Alright, Barnett War, and people were like, hey, you know what? If you don't support the flag, get out of here. Alright, but the government said Americans, they can't be forced to salute the flag. Alright, West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett. You can't be forced to salute the flag. Alright, one of the worst things that we did during World War II was Japanese internment camp. Alright, we were afraid of Japanese spies, of anybody with Japanese ancestry on the West Coast primarily. We were afraid that they're going to leak information to Japan, and many of these are hard-working American citizens who would not do such a thing. Pretty much, all of them were, and we're going to round them up and stick them in these internment camps. These camps were worse off than jail cells, worse off than prison. And it's just absolutely horrible. Forced to carry ID cards, thousands placed in these prison camps all across the West. This was Executive Order 9066, issued February 19th, 1942, to round up all Japanese Americans on the West Coast and stick them in these internment camps. Now, don't confuse internment camps with concentration camps. We weren't working them to death. We weren't killing them. Alright, even though some did die here, this was not a concentration camp. It was an internment camp. Basically going to house them under armed guard and armed surveillance 24/7 to make sure they don't spy on us and leak secrets of the United States to their people back at home in Japan. Alright, some I say 2.5 years, 4 years long. People lived there. And one thing that's interesting is that they fed them peaches. They had a lot of peaches, fed them peaches. Japanese people do not like peaches, too sweet. And so that didn't help out. The only thing they can bring with them is 2 suitcases, 2 bags. And they stuffed everything they could. And many people stuffed like fine china and stuff like that in their bags. So really kind of not useful in this situation. So things were not good in these internment camps for the Japanese Americans. Said this is one of the worst things that we've done. This is curtailing civil liberties at its finest right here. Really bad. I've talked about black spots in American history, from the Indian Removal Act, slaughter of those Native Americans, and from slavery to segregation, and now still, Japanese internment camps. Alright, so they can only bring what they could carry. Many camps located in the desert, barbed wire around them. Japanese were questioned about their loyalty. Nisei, second-generation Japanese Americans, many of them said, well, I'm loyal to America. To prove it, I'll join the army. So they joined the military in order to prove their loyalty. I mean, these are hard-working Americans. We're going to round them up like cattle and throw them in these internment camps. Not good. They slept where horses slept, in a horse track. I mean, it's just awful. Awful conditions, awful place, awful thing that the American government did to American people. Alright, decades later, the U.S. government acknowledged this wrong. The court case, Court Washington versus the United States, and the United States won this, saying that the United States had the right to do this to protect national security, but they admitted that, yeah, it was kind of wrong, maybe we shouldn't have done this. We had the right, by all means, but we shouldn't have. And so they, restored to give money and whatnot for, later generations of people who suffered through this. Quick review, the U.S. went all in for the war effort, from rationing food to other materials to buying war bonds. The U.S. was afraid of Japanese spies. The FDR issued Executive Order 9066 to put all Japanese Americans in internment camps. Next up, the atomic bomb, the Manhattan Project. Okay, in Los Alamos, New Mexico, this place was so secretive, not even the vice president knew about it. So secretive. Only a small group of people knew about what was going on. Okay, Einstein wrote a letter to the president saying Americans need the atomic bomb. Okay, Germany's working on it. You need it. And so we created the Manhattan Project, top secret project, and the creation of the atomic bomb. Alright. And research began in 1939, concerned, like I said, like Germany was overdeveloping one. And John Robert Oppenheimer won the race to create the atomic bomb. There's Oppenheimer there. And so we got the bomb first. We got the atomic bomb, the Trinity test, the first testing of an atomic bomb. Right, so we fought for freedom at home. African Americans now. Many African Americans in the military, hundreds of thousands of African Americans served during World War II. Famous picture here of Easter eggs for Hitler. We're going to drop bombs on them. And they still received discrimination, had to serve in segregated units, did not receive honor and were unrecognized for their bravery until 50 years later. African Americans did, for the first time, find work in factories, but were often paid very low as well. Right? So, Union leader A. Philip Randolph led a march in Washington in 1941 to protest unfair treatment. And so Roosevelt's going to outlaw discrimination in government and defense jobs. So there's no discrimination in government jobs. But since African Americans gained a lot of, experience and freedoms through World War II, this kind of began the new civil rights movement that will go on in the 50s and early part of the 60s in America, thanks to World War II. The civil rights movement really begins here. Challenged Hispanic Americans. The Bracero Program gave Mexican workers a chance to work temporarily in the United States because they needed farm labor. We needed farm labor, so we needed them because many Americans are off for war, so we're going to hire many Mexicans to come up. Led attention to several areas of Zoot riots. White settlers stationed in L.A. fought with groups of Mexican-American youths because the Mexican-American youths weren't going to war. They were these Zoot suits that obviously were not rationing, for clothing. And so when these sailors came in, they saw this and like, whoa, this is just wrong. And so one night, they just started, they went at, and we had a big old riot going on, big old fight. And the suitors won, but the media swayed it in favor of the sailors. And well, then a riot happened, and this kind of curtailed itself not too long after that. But the Zoot riots. And there they are. There's the soldiers there returning back with clubs, and they're gonna whoop some people. You're not being rationing. You're not fighting in the war. All right. So what are you doing here? All right, stealing our girls. So we're gonna whoop you. And there's a section of Zoot suits. You see a lot of material, a lot of bright colors, a lot of material. Definitely not rationing. All right, when they create these Zoot suits. He said Hispanic Americans are deeply loyal to the U.S. and may serve bravely in the armed forces as well. Lesson reviewed. U.S. went all in for the war effort, rationing of food and other materials to buy war bonds. U.S. was afraid of Japanese spies, so FDR issued Executive Order 9066, put all Japanese Americans in internment camps. Manhattan Project to create the atomic bomb, Los Alamos, New Mexico, top secret. Shh, no one knew about it. J.R. Oppenheimer won the race to create the atomic bomb. Race was a big issue during the war. African Americans still being discriminated against at home and abroad. Hispanics and U.S. Navy midshipmen clashed in the California Zoot suit riots. Alright, that's it for this lesson. Until next time, study history.